First thing is, I think for so many of you, and actually, hold on, I'm just going to take a second and adjust this. Okay. I think for so many of you, you have this inner knowing. It's like, I know I'm meant for more. I know it. How many of you, raise your hand if you're meant for more? Like, I'm here because I know I'm meant for more. Great. I thought so. You wouldn't be here if that wasn't true. But when you want to make an offer, you don't want to be icky or salesy or sleazy. You love serving, but you don't love selling. And a lot of times we hear that sales is something you do to someone, and it's not, and I think it's something you do for someone. And you can hear that and go, well, that sounds good, but it's also really hard. And when it comes down to actually having the sales conversation, fear just stops us in our tracks. It's like we're so scared, like just the fear of it bubbles up, and it's just like literally paralyzing. How many of you are like, actually the thought of this is a little paralyzing when I have to do it? Just giving you a Richter scale. And some of you are like, I love sales. I love Martin So's like, not me. I love selling. And so if you're one of these people that you're like, I'm petrified of getting out there and doing this, I'm going to have some answers for you. And if you're one of these people who's like, I love it, I can't wait, I'm also going to have some answers for you, because I'm going to give you some stealth strategies and how you can overcome objections. Because in order to get consistent sales, which is the key to impact and income and the key to a purpose-driven payday, you have to know how to do this. You have to know how to enroll people. And I really want you to think about this, being comfortable with the concept of sales, not as selling, but as enrollment. You're enrolling people into, you're inviting them into taking the next step with you. And so just really quick, AV2, I just want you to know when I advance, what's advancing in the teleprompter is not my slides. I think that might help you and me to know that. So my clicker, I know what's happening. Hold on one second. I have two clickers. I think this is the key. Thank you to Tella. Tella's like, fill this in. Thank you. Okay. So, yeah, now we're cooking with gas. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, so now let's pick back up. So, you know you're called. You know you're meant for more. You know you need to take a stand for yourself. And in doing that, you're going to take a stand for your ideal client. And part of why you're here today is because you agreed to do it messy, do it scared, do it imperfect, and do it anyway. Do you remember that back at the Own Your Future Challenge? I'm going to do it messy. I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to do it imperfect. I'm going to do it anyway. Well, the same thing that applied to getting you here also applies to getting you to your first sale, your next sale, and then on your path to consistent sales. Some of it is going to be messy. Some of it is going to be scary. A lot of it is going to be imperfect, and you're going to do it anyway. And here's the thing to know. You kind of have to, not even kind of, you have to recommit to this every day. Like, whether you like the idea of business or not, like, I know for some of you, when we watched you, it was like, you don't actually even relate yet to having a business. Like, oh, wait, no, I'm not in business. I'm just trying to create some time and money freedom. Time and money freedom isn't a business. I'm not in business. I'm not an entrepreneur necessarily. I'm just entrepreneurial. And others of you are fully on the entrepreneurial path. But if you were called and you were meant for more, and you're getting comfortable with this idea of taking a stand for yourself and taking a stand for your ideal client and stepping into doing it messy, doing it scared, doing it imperfect, and doing it anyway, then you actually have to recommit every single day to building this muscle, to getting more confident in this muscle. Yeah, I just noticed Trent talked a lot about this. I love that, Ian. It's true. I mean, so much of what Trent said was dead on for this skill that you have to build. And if you know anything about building muscle, you build it through resistance. Muscle is built through resistance. And so how do you get comfortable with that resistance? How do you do that? Well, the first thing you have to know is it starts with you. That commitment and that recommitment starts with you. Put it in the chat, it starts with me. Just so I know you're with me. I know we lost our pace for a second, so I want to make sure I haven't lost you. It starts with me. Enrollment starts with me. It starts with me. There you go. Thank you. Great. It does start with you, because here's the thing. If you're not enrolled in you, then your ideal client is not going to be enrolled in you either. And here's the truth I want you to know. You cannot ask your ideal client to be more invested in you than you are. You know what I mean? Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca Shrake is like, yep, I get it. And it really is true. So often we're kind of hoping, if we're being really honest with ourselves, that if we can just have this little kernel of like belief in ourselves that we are meant for more, and we put ourselves out there, that some magical person on the other end is going to believe in you more than you do, so that you can have this big dream come true instead of saying, oh, wait a minute, it starts with me. I have to start with me first. I have to be so enrolled in me and my big vision that my passion actually enrolls the people around me. So the truth is, you can't ask your ideal client to be more enrolled in you than you are. And so you might be thinking, but Bari, where do I start building that muscle? It's hard. Sales can be hard. Enrollment can be hard. Stepping up, leaning in for myself, and actually enrolling other people could be hard. And it could be for some of you, especially if you haven't done it before. But here's the thing. What's also true is that it's worth it. Because what you're learning here gives you the freedom to, and I want you to get locked into this future casting vision for yourself, because when things get hard in running a business or in making our irresistible offer, this is what carries you through. The big why that you can work where you want, when you want, with whom you want, all while serving the person you're meant to serve. And in serving yourself, you're serving them. Like that, I love the synchronicity that what you do for yourself, you're doing for your ideal client. And what you do for your ideal client, you're doing for yourself. That they are compatible together. And so when you're stepping up in order to serve the person that you're meant to work with, all of this is building your reserves and helping you become the person you're meant to be while you're helping them become the person they're meant to be. And I think of this continuum as enrollment and as sales as service. And it's so important to think of it that way, because if you shrink and you don't play your biggest possible leaning into your biggest self, how could you possibly help them to do it? And so you're actually growing together. When you think of it that way, KK told you yesterday, you just have to be like one step ahead. One step ahead. So it's not like you have to have it all figured out before you do this, but you do have to start leaning into it. And the good news is the more you do it, the easier it gets. So if mastery is a muscle you have to build, and you do it through repetition and immersion and modeling proven practices, then there's no better place to get started than here. It's why I love being part of Team Dean and Team Tony. They get you started with your first sale, and then your next sale, and then a clear path to consistent sales. There's no safer place to do it. There's no more proven place to do it. There's no people who have done it more, done it longer, or done it with more efficiency or with better results than they have. And that's great news for you, because you know you're in a safe space to start spreading your wings and taking uncomfortable action in a way that you couldn't if you were doing it on your own. So this is how I want you to think about it. Your idea has gone from possible to probable to predictable. Write that down. Possible to probable to predictable. The reason I want you to write it down is the same thing is true for the people that you're meant to serve. Meaning that whatever niche you're in, whatever ideal client you're meant to serve, whatever you do, you're helping them go, wait a minute, that's possible? Oh, it's not just possible, it's probable when you use my system and my process, my method and my framework. In fact, it's predictable. The results are predictable. So what you're learning here is the same thing that you need to do for the people that you serve, is take them on this possibility path. And I really do think of this way. What I'm about to share with you is buyer psychology. And so I've shared with you one fundamental premise, which is in order for people to be enrolled in you, you have to be enrolled in yourself. That's the first step. The second is you have to understand buyer psychology before you can even start to overcome their objections. So here's buyer psychology, the possibility path. The first step is you can do that. Like when you teach something free, you can do that? I had no idea. Yes, the light bulb went on, Kimberly. Like whatever you're doing out there, it might be social, it might be webinar, it might be challenge, is you're lighting up for them. Wait a minute, you can do that. And then they start to think, wait a minute, not only you can do that, I can do that. They start to embrace it as their own. Like now that I hear the framework, I actually am like, wait a minute, it's not just possible, I could do it. And the minute they start making it their own, that's the start of the enrollment path. It's the start of possibility. It's them actually going from light bulb moment to this is my moment. And the next shift is I will do that. Not only can I do it, I'm actually admitting and committing to doing it. And that's the next step in enrollment, right? I've gone from you can do that to I can do that to whoa, wait, I will do that. And then the next step is they hear your irresistible offer. And it's so irresistible that they think to themselves, I must do that. I must do that. Now it's gone from just making it their own to a commitment they will do to a certainty that now is the time. And then the last piece of it when you make your offer is for them to think, I'm crazy not to do that. Like, now that I hear this offer, I'm crazy not to do that. And so when you start to think of that possibility path in that way and think of your buyer psychology in that way, it's like you can do that. You can serve them into, I'm crazy not to do that. You can open their eyes to, you can do that. You saw our panel talk about that yesterday. It started with the referral with Eamon. It started with, stepping into no more trading hours for dollars. You're like, now that I know that, I can do that. I can help others do that. I will do that. I must do that. I'm crazy not to do that. Who can relate that this is the path that you've been on with us from Own Your Future? Yes. Now, along that way, when you were first opened up in the challenge, like, you can do that? Wait a minute. I can do that. I watched you over the course of Own Your Future go, wait a minute, I will do that. And those of you that were certain about it, committed to Launchpad, you're like, oh no, I will do that. And I'm going to get there faster, simpler, and easier with the framework and with Tony and Dean and the team and with this amazing community. I will do that. And some of you here at this event were opened up to Launchpad Accelerator, and you're like, I must do that. I'm crazy not to do that. Why would I not want to get there faster, simpler, and easier? And who would we be to not help you do that? Think about it. If we got here to this event, we were like, good luck. That's all we got. And you're like, oh, I could really use some more help. Nope, that's it. I mean, you've got the framework. Go for it. You've got the framework. You can do it. Get out there. Go. Versus saying, oh, no, I know who you are. I know that you probably need some accountability, some community, some enhanced opportunity, some repetition, some immersion, some modeling proven practices. I think we owe it to you to come up with something that would allow you to stay in momentum, allow you to stay connected. And for those of you that, if you're being really honest, you haven't finished the course yet, you'd be like, we got you. Let us hold your hand through this process. Let us put you through implementation workshops where we're actually going to do it with you. Let us give you access to coaches 24/5 so that you can do it. And all of a sudden you're like, yes, recommitted. I will do that. I must do that. I'm crazy not to do that. That is a service-based path. We care about you enough to make sure that every step has been thought through and plotted out so that you know exactly what to do it and how to do it and who to do it with. And that's the exact same process that you're taking your ideal client through. You're nurturing them through the process of opening their eyes, helping them make it their own, committing to getting started, and then giving them a path that they can't say no to because it's just that irresistible. So now that we know that's how it works, for the skills that you're learning here to work, you have to get comfortable with overcoming objections that are naturally going to come up as you take them through your value ladder. And by the way, that possibility path is embedded in your value ladder. So whether it's low ticket or high ticket, you're going to have people show up and be like, I don't know. I have some concerns. I have some questions. And you want to be armed and prepared to deal with those. So the good news is, Dean mentioned this, but for 2 decades, I've been helping my clients scale the value ladder through the power of a live event. And what I've discovered through that process is that the objections are all the same at every layer of the ladder. And here's what's awesome for you, because I know we have a global audience here. Every country, every language, every niche, every market, all the same. The objections are all the same. And here's how I know this, just so you know where this is coming from. Way back when I first started my business back in 2004, and I was helping to answer questions about high ticket offers at the back of the room, I started to track in a spreadsheet the questions that I was getting. And I started to see that they naturally fell into buckets. That all these questions, if I really started to look at them like, oh, this all equals this, this all equals this, this all equals this. Some of them were real estate. Some of them were restaurateurs. Some of them were health and fitness. Some of them were personal development. Some of them were business development. They were all different walks of life. But what we heard from the buyers at the back of the room was the exact same questions. They were pretty universal. And here's what's awesome about that. The objections being the same in any niche, any language, any country, any market, means that they're common. And common problems have common solutions. We can solve what we understand. So when it's out there just as a sea of objections, like, oh no, I don't know what they might say. I don't know how I would answer that. It's so much harder than when you're like, oh, that fits into this bucket. That fits into this bucket. What we can solve, we can understand. What we understand, we can solve. Once you understand them, you can serve your way to success. And it really does feel like a service because it is. You know the objections that are going to come up, and who would you be as their mentor, as their leader, to not say, I owe it to you to help you think through this. Now, here's another thing I want you to know. Not everybody is going to say yes to you. It's true. There are some people that you will never get them over their objection. And that's okay. You're committed to the process and to serving them through it. And a percentage of them are going to say yes because you're going to help them get to an answer that they needed to get to. They just needed your support to get there. That's how we serve them. And I will tell you this. I promise you this. I've even seen it with the questions and some of the people that have asked about Launchpad Accelerator here. Some of you don't have anyone to talk to. You came into our lobby because there's no one to help you think through this. And it's too big to think of on your own. And so if a qualified person who understands the program and understands objections can serve you by asking great questions that help you think through, well, I could do that. Wait a minute, I will do that. I must do that. I'm crazy not to do that. Then it's a service to you. And I really want you to flip the script and start looking at this through that lens. You're serving your buyer by asking the right questions to help them uncover if this is the right time for them. And here's the other thing I want you to know. Today's non-buyer is tomorrow's buyer. Some people are going to say no to you today and say yes to you tomorrow or a week from now or a month from now or a year from now. If we're in service and integrity and we've served them, they are so much more likely to show up again to talk to you than if they feel like you tried to sell them. So a golden rule for me is sometimes I serve you to know. Sometimes we uncover together, you're not ready. Sometimes we uncover together, this is not your time. Sometimes we uncover together that you could use more time to do this, that you can't quite afford to do it. And I would rather be in integrity in that and know that it gives me a chance for you to come back and for me to serve you longer and deeper when you're ready than to just be like, everyone's a yes, I've got to get them to yes. It also gives me the freedom that when I know someone is supposed to be with me, to go even deeper with them, to serve them into something I know is true for them, and to be in total integrity doing it, because I'm not telling them the answer. I'm asking the questions that allow them to get to the answer. Are you with me? Does it make sense? We can ask questions that help them get to the answer. Okay, great. So here's how we do this. This fear of overcoming objections, I want you to think of this way. What if it was really the universe calling you? What if the fear that you have, the thing that is most holding you back, is actually the universe calling you to rise up and overcome that fear and solve your own objection, asking you to step up? Because chances are your ideal client's biggest objection, the one that triggers you the most, is the one that triggers them the most. And I really think it works this way. 9 times out of 10, our ideal client is a mirror for us. And the thing that is their most likely objection is also your most likely objection. Meaning that when you're considering making an investment, when you're considering stepping up for yourself, something rises up and keeps you from doing it. One of these objections I'm going to share with you, chances are when you make your offer to your ideal client, that same objection is going to rise up. And I think this is the universe's way of calling you to solve this, to slay this dragon once and for all, to embrace the objection, give it a hug, get cozy with it, and thank the universe for the opportunity to break through it so it's no longer holding power over you. It's no longer controlling you. So I want to walk you through what the most likely objections are. And when I do it, I want you to think to yourself, oh, wait a minute, that's the one that always shows up for me. 9 times out of 10, that's the one that keeps me from buying, from investing. And I don't just mean money. I mean time, too. Investing your time, not just your money, and the bigger vision of yourself and who you're meant to be. I want you to do this because I know you're meant for more, and I don't want you to be controlled by a fear of enrollment. I want you to be empowered by an excitement to serve. No longer be feared by enrollment, controlled by a fear of enrollment, empowered by an excitement to serve. Like that is the linchpin on this, where this all starts to flip. It's like, I won't be controlled by this because I have too big of an excitement to serve the people I'm meant to be with. I'm meant for more, so I have to step into this. If you believe what you need to, and what you do, you just need the structure for the conversation. And that really is what I'm going to share with you today. There's a structure for this. It's proven. Like everything we've done here with you this week, there's a proven structure. So it doesn't have to be this murky thing out there hanging over you that you have to live in fear of. You're like, oh, I get it. I recognize it. Now that I know it, I can slay this dragon. So here's the structure. These are the 5 buckets I came up with. There are 5. Some of you might know them. It's time, money, spouse, fear, shame, and self-doubt. and I'll say those again, the most likely dragons that you are going to need to slay, any market, any niche, doesn't matter what you're serving, who you're serving, what you're doing, what kind of offer you're making, low ticket, high ticket, these are what's going to show up. I don't have time to do it. I can't afford to do it. My spouse, significant other, partner won't let me do it. I'm afraid to do it. I have too much shame and self-doubt to do it. When I started analyzing all the objections I got at the back of the room, and this went on for a decade, this was a list that I just kept adding to and adding to. I'd be like, falls into time, falls into money, falls into spouse, falls into fear, falls into shame and self-doubt. I never found one outside that continuum. And it is a continuum, meaning that when you start to hear a time objection, a money objection, a spouse objection, a fear objection, a shame and self-doubt objection, you establish on the continuum, where are they on that objection? Here's what I mean by that. You would ask 3 simple words. They would say, I don't have time to do it. And you'd say, really? Interesting. Tell me more about why you don't have time. Those are the 3 magic words in enrollment. Tell me more. I don't have money to do it. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Tell me more about that. Why can't you afford this? I would love to do it, but my spouse is not on board with this. Oh, unfortunate. Tell me more. Why do you think they aren't on board? The tell me more is the start of a service-based conversation, because we want to know where on the continuum they fall. A lot of times we'll hear, I don't have time, and we're like, oh, no. We try and throw an answer at them. We're going to overcome the time objection. You don't have time. Oh, no, you have time. You can find the time. This program actually makes you time. I don't have the money to do it. I'm sure you can find the money. It's worth it. You should do this. Instead of actually knowing, is their time objection, wow, this is going to be uncomfortable because I'm pretty busy. I think I'd have to give up tennis on Saturday and work on this after I put the kids to bed. I wonder if I could do that. That's a time objection. Another time objection is, oh, gosh, I'm already working 2 jobs. I've got 2 young kids, and I've just started caring for my mom who has dementia. Those are all time objections. They're at different ends of the continuum of time. And you need to know where they fit on the continuum. Let's talk about money for a second. The second most common is money. Let's analyze the continuum. One is, oh, yeah, I'd love to do this. I wasn't planning on spending this money right now. I wonder if I could free that up on my credit card. Or, yeah, I have a client who owes me money. I think I could do that, but I wasn't planning to spend that money right now. The other end of the continuum is I'm working 2 jobs. I have young children, and I have a parent who's not well. I'm barely making ends meet. I can barely put a roof over our head. I'm worried that we're going to have to sell the house and get an apartment. Those are different ends of the money continuum. And so if you just rush to answer without knowing where you are, it's actually not serving your client, your ideal client. And this is what I mean about sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no. I will often say, never do anything that's going to threaten putting a roof over your head and food on the table. This may not be your time. And here's also no. Sometimes when we have that conversation, someone will say, you know what? If I don't do it, I'll never not be in this situation. Meaning, you're right, I don't have the time, but I'm never going to have the time if I don't start doing things differently. You're right, I can't afford to do it, but I'm never going to have the money if I don't start doing this differently. And now you can start to have a constructive conversation where you're coaching them to yes, instead of trying to force them to yes. And what always feels icky, salesy, and sleazy is we're trying to force a yes versus uncover one, right? Uncover the yes, lovingly, in a nurturing way. And it's a fine line between empathy and enabling. And that's something that you have to start to suss out as you're having this conversation to figure out where they are on the continuum. Enabling them doesn't serve them, letting them stay stuck in their story. But empathizing, saying, I understand, tell me more, allows you to uncover where they are and coach them through it. So as I'm going through this, I want to ask you, where do you see yourself in this? As I go through the most common objections and what's most likely to hold people back, your people, your ideal client, I want you to think about, where am I showing up in this? Which of these objections is a trigger for me? Which one of these stops me? Which one of these very same things have I said when I'm trying to make a buying decision for myself about investing in myself? It may have even come up this weekend. What comes up for you? It's important to acknowledge it and not hold it at bay, but embrace it so that you can come up with a way to resolve it for you and then better resolve it for the people you're meant to serve. So the first one, time, is the easiest one to talk about. These actually work in an order, in a hierarchy, meaning that time is the easiest to talk about, money's a little bit harder, spouse is a little bit harder, fear is definitely harder, and shame and self-doubt is the deepest. Very few people are just going to come right out of the gate and go, I would love to do this, but I've got to tell you, I never show up. I always procrastinate. If I'm being really honest, I am the worst about follow through. And because of that, I am deeply ashamed. They don't say that. It may be true, but it's not the thing they're going to say to you first. What they're going to say to you first is, I'm not sure I have time to do it, because it's easier to talk about. Are you with me? Do you get it? Raise your hand if you're like, I get it. This makes sense. Yes? Okay, good. Good. I want to make sure I've left no one behind. All right, so I want you to start to think of time in this way. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to doing this thing? It's not the offer that you're asking about. It's not on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to being in my program or to buying my offer? It's how committed are you to getting the result that my program creates? If we can establish that, I'm highly committed to the result. Like this weekend, I want an irresistible offer. I want my first or next sale. I want consistent sales. I want time and money freedom through this framework. Now, the path to that, the fastest path, is Launchpad Accelerator. So I want you to think of it in this same way for your own program. What question could you ask them to determine how committed are they to the result you create? On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to the results that we create? Oh, by the way, my program is the fastest path to this. Now you've established on the continuum how serious they are. And this is important because if they're actually not that serious, you don't want to spend a lot of time with them. You get it? Right? Like they're a 2. Do you want to spend time with the 2 or a 10? We want to spend our time with the 5 to 10. Yeah, Lynn's like 10. Exactly, Lynn. That's right. So here are a couple things. These are what-if statements that could help them break through the barriers where they're stuck on time. So the first one is dates. A lot of people get obsessed with dates. I can't make all the dates in your irresistible offer. So a what-if question would be, what if you could make all the dates? Let's say that they were all clear on your calendar, and then over the course of the program unfolding, something came up, a wedding, a funeral, a health issue, and you couldn't make the date. Would you quit the program? Or would you still be all in because you're committed? Would you choose commitment over convenience? Would you find a way to make it work? Because this program is over this many days, and that's only that many of the total. Meaning you can't make this date. You're going to miss, let's say, a workshop, so you're missing 2 days. But this is 180 days, so 2 out of 180 actually isn't that big of a deal. And could you renegotiate to allow for the opportunity to happen? Could you get childcare? Could you take that day off from work? Could you schedule non-negotiable time on your schedule to allow you to catch up on the missed calls? Like, I have to tell you, I can't do it. I've definitely got my daughter's wedding. She's not moving her wedding, so I'm going to miss that workshop. I understand. The good news is it's recorded, and it would be possible. What if you created 2 days on your calendar and you participated in the workshop then? You watched the workshop then. It was a non-negotiable for you. And then what if you came to our Q&A call or our private coaching session and you asked any questions from those 2 days? Could you renegotiate to allow for this opportunity to happen? And could you schedule non-negotiable time to catch up on anything you're missing? Now, if they are highly committed on a scale of 1 to 10, then they are so much more likely to say yes and figure out the path to get themselves to yes. And another thing to ask is, what if you had massive success in this program a year from now? Would you be glad that you didn't let the date stop you from getting the support you need? Like, if you're focused on the transformation and we could get you that transformation, even though you were going to miss these 2 days, would it be worth it to you to still come in, even though you're going to miss the 2 days, knowing that you're going to get the transformation on the other side? What would that be worth to you? So now we're in a coaching conversation, helping them to uncover for themselves what's possible. And that's what the Tell Me More conversation allows you to do. And by the way, Tell Me More can happen in layers. Tell me more, they give you an answer. Interesting, tell me more about that. Interesting, tell me more about that. I mean, you don't want to be like a robot, but it is an onion that you're kind of peeling back the layers to figure out what is really holding them back. Okay, so the next one, money. Let's talk about money. It's not, and this is really important for you to know and for you to know on behalf of your ideal client. It's not about your resources. It's about how resourceful you are. Very rarely do we have a bucket of money, a bucket of time, just waiting to be spent. We don't have resources just hanging out in the wings, just waiting to be spent. So it's not about what resources we have, it's about how resourceful we are. So a great what if statement for yourself as you're uncovering this, but also for your clients you're meant to serve, is what if you were to treat yourself as your most important asset, your most important investment? What if out of all the investments you could make, stock market, house, car, you were your most important investment? Because the truth is, when we pay attention. It's true. The bigger the investment, the bigger your commitment will be. So when you show up and you pay for things, and this is especially important for those of you that have been giving away your services, and you're like, I can't even imagine paying. I want you to think of it as a service to your ideal client, that when they pay, they're more likely to get a result. They're going to take you more seriously, but way more importantly, they're going to take themselves more seriously. And that's where they start to get the results. So it's actually a service to them to have them pay you versus give it away for free. Another way to think about this is that you're going to spend this money somewhere. Make a list of all the things you spend your money on. You're going to spend your money somewhere. Why not spend it here? Which would give you the biggest investment, the biggest return on your investment. And I think of this a lot. I know for myself, if I'm having a bad day, I might buy a Starbucks, or I might go to Target and shop for a pillow I don't really need. Who relates? Like, it's like a little feel-good moment, right? And before you know it, you look at your bank account and you've spent all this money on Netflix and Target and Starbucks, because in the moment, it made us feel better. But it didn't actually. It was not an investment that gave us a real return. Sometimes it actually takes us farther and deeper into the hole, because it's a one-time commodity, not an investment in ourselves. It's an investment in a moment, not an investment in our future. What are you investing in the moment instead of in your future? And that's a good question to ask yourself and to ask your ideal client. And I would think about this. Why are we willing to spend so much money as a society right now on fixing things on the outside, Botox, hair extensions, but not willing to spend money on the things that really count, which are the things on the inside? And that's not you don't want to be judging yourself or your right fit client. You want to actually be asking the question, what are you spending your money on? And is it giving you a good return on the investment? What if you focus more on being resourceful versus the resources that you have? So for example, in my household, my husband and I do an exercise called 50 ways when we want something that we can't afford. Take out a sheet of paper and we write down 1 through 50, 50. The magic happens somewhere after 35. Like, we're brainstorming all the ways that we could pay for something. I mean, think of it. It could be treating your job as a bank loan. It could be collecting an unpaid debt from a client. It could be driving Uber. It could be DoorDash. It could be selling things on eBay that you no longer need. It could be selling clothes on the Real. It could be running errands in your neighborhood for people who would really genuinely appreciate it. We have a student who literally paid for her entire coaching program by just putting flyers out saying, hey, I've got 2 young kids. I'm a single mom. I really am trying to change our future. I don't want a handout, but I do need some help. These are all the things I can do. This is my hourly rate. Here's how to reach me. And people were like, I need that help. And I'm so delighted to have you be the person who does it, because I feel really good about helping you while you're helping me. How resourceful could you be if you were a 10 on a scale of your commitment? I'm committed to doing this. I just have to find a way. It's not about my resources. It's about how resourceful I am. So first, you have to do that for yourself in order for you to be in integrity coaching your client to do it. It's a great exercise to do. And again, the magic happens somewhere after 35. That's why you keep going until you hit 50. It's how you pay for deposits. It's how you pay for monthlies. It's how you do pay in fulls. How resourceful could you be? Now let's talk about the spouse. Overarchingly, the thing with a spouse or a significant other or a business partner is so often we're going to them and we're asking for permission instead of support. And as I talk through this, I want you to see if you relate to this. If you talk to your spouse and you came to them from a place of certainty that was head turning, would their opinion be different? If you painted a clear picture of the opportunity versus the opportunity cost, meaning here's the opportunity if I do this, and here's the cost if I don't, would it change their mind? Are you hoping that they can connect those dots? Have you connected those dots? You have to help your right fit client connect those dots. So when you think of asking your spouse for support, not permission, here's how I think most of these conversations go. I know it was true for me before I had the authority to go to my partner, who in my case happens to be my husband and my business partner, from a place of certainty. I would go to him and say, I'm thinking about doing this thing. I want to know what you think. So I had this idea. I was going to do this thing. Do you think I should do that? I know we talked about, like, I wasn't going to spend any more money until I got this thing, but I'm thinking about doing it. Do you think we could afford this? And everything that we're asking is coming from a place of massive uncertainty. Like, my body language is uncertain. My language is uncertain. Everything I'm saying is uncertain. Instead of going to him and saying, hey, I know you're in the middle of watching this football game. I need you just to turn it off for a second. It's recorded. We can watch it later. I've had a huge epiphany. You know how I've been struggling and struggling, trying to get this business together, I just keep knocking my head against this wall, trying to figure out how to get my list built, how to get my first client, how to launch my high ticket offer. And it turns out there's actually a framework for this. Like, I've been trying to reinvent it, and there's actually a clear framework for this that I could be using. And there's actually people out there getting success, people just like me, with this framework. And once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it. Once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Because here's what I've realized. Every dinner conversation we have, I keep trying to make you my business coach, and that's really weird because you're in a 9-to-5 job, and that's absolutely not what you do. And I've realized that's grossly unfair to you, to keep asking you to coach me on something that is you're in no way qualified to do. And I mean that with so much love, but this is not what you do. And it turns out there are people who do that. So I had this idea, and I'd really love your support. I really need to get help. I need to join this like-minded community, people who are just like me, who are out there doing exactly what I'm doing, because I'm in the trenches every day, and I can't do it alone. And I don't want you to have to be in that position. I'd like for our dinners to be dinners. I'd like for our family time to be family time. I'd like to stop being so angry and so frustrated and really live into my fullest potential. And here's the thing. If I do that, I'm going to pull you along with me, you and our family. If you will support me in this, I'd like to set a goal together. When I make my first X, I'm going to do this for you. And if you'll support me and letting me be on these calls on Wednesdays or doing the work after the kids go to bed, I'm going to support you by letting you go to do golf on Saturday. If we could work together on this, this will be a game changer for our family. Not only will I be more fulfilled, which will allow me to be a better partner, a better wife, a better mother, I'm going to be happier, more fulfilled, which is going to make our marriage better, our family better. And it's going to create a level of opportunity that we couldn't possibly do if I went back and got a job. Here's the thing. I really need to do this, and I hope you'll support me in this. That's a very different conversation. I see some of you saying, I'm really blessed. I'm so lucky in this department. And if you have that in your household, even when you have the most supportive partner like I do, I'm doing them a favor with my own clarity, painting a clear picture of what the opportunity is, of what I'm trying to do and why I'm trying to do it, of the kind of support I'm asking for. And if you don't have that in your household, you, more than anyone, need to be in a community of like-minded people that can support you. Trust me on that. You can't do this in a bubble. When I was going through a divorce, the first thing I did was make sure I had a community around me to support me because I knew I could not do it by myself. My dream was just too big. My vision was just too big to do it alone. And so, again, on that tell me more scale, it's like your spouse unsupportive because they don't understand what you're doing. Is your spouse unsupportive because they're afraid they're going to be left behind? Is your spouse unsupportive because they've never really understood what's possible if you were to hit these goals? Or is your spouse just really not a supportive spouse? In which case you have a whole different issue. But it's important to know that for yourself, and it's extremely important to know it for your right fit client. To be asking these questions before you just either A, paint the spouse as a villain, or B, just say, I'm sure you can talk them into it. Versus encouraging them and coaching them through how to have a real conversation. Ideally one that you've modeled, that you've done yourself, so you can be in integrity when you coach them through it. It matters a lot. So the next one is fear. And this is one of the more deeply embedded objections. And how many of you, just pausing right now, which one so far is the one that's most controlling you? Or that you think is most likely to control your right fit client? Do a quick self-assessment. Which one? See a lot of money. Yes. Fear, self-doubt. Thank you for that honesty. Yes. Absolutely. Fear of failure. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I totally get it. And now that you know that, it's so much easier to start wrangling it for yourself using these same opportunities so you can help others to do it too. Fear tends to be a little more deeply embedded. We're afraid to admit that we're afraid. And that's so common and really so okay. And I see Bambi nodding like she really gets it. And Susan, thank you for that. And I think that the way to look at fear is that this is about uncomfortable action versus cost of an action. It's about reward versus regret. It's about opportunity versus opportunity cost. And what I mean by that is that when the reward becomes bigger than the regret, or the fear of regret becomes bigger than the reward, we start to make a different decision. Right? Think of this in really simple terms. If I were going to my high school reunion and I wanted to be, look, thinner, richer, and more successful than I was, and I went to the mall and I found the perfect outfit. The minute I put it on, I'm like, oh my God, I look amazing. Thinner, richer, more successful than I am. This is exactly what I was looking for. And I look at the price tag and I'm like, I can't afford that. There's no way. I put it back. I walk around the mall all afternoon, try on different things, but nothing measures up to the one that my heart is already attached to the reward, to that feeling of what it's going to be like to walk in feeling that way and looking that way. I will find a way to do it. The regret of not showing that up, the fear of the regret of not showing up that way is too big. I find a way. And this is how we're wired, all of our buyers, ourselves and the people we're meant to serve, is that the opportunity has to be bigger than the opportunity cost. I'm so excited by the opportunity, and I cannot stand the thought of the opportunity cost that I've got to find a way. The fear of staying stuck outweighs my fear of moving forward. My fear of a day becoming a decade, a day becoming a week becoming a month becoming a quarter becoming a year is so much more painful than just taking the uncomfortable action that I need to take today. And that's so often true. Like this one tiny uncomfortable action ultimately is so much easier than staying stuck where you are. At some point, there will be a tipping point. I call it day of disgust, where you're finally like, I just cannot stay stuck in this place for one more second. I cannot continue to operate in lack instead of abundance. I cannot continue to shy away from who I'm meant to be and what I'm supposed to do. I cannot for one more second continue to ask for permission instead of support and not take responsibility and ownership for what I'm really trying to create in my life and for the people I'm meant to serve. I just can't do it anymore. And if you haven't hit that day yet, don't wait for that day. And be willing to take a stand for it with the people that you're meant to serve. Wouldn't it feel good to no longer have fear control you and your decisions? To no longer have every decision you're making be made from a place of fear instead of from opportunity. Because here's the thing, failure isn't fatal. It's normal. It's even necessary, right? We do have to have false steps and missteps to get things right. Like a great example is when we're watching a child learn to walk. Like how many of you have a child? You've been a child, you have a nephew, you have a niece, you have a grandchild. And we're watching them walk, and they take that first step up and then they fall. And then another step up and then they fall. And here's the thing. We don't sit back and look at them and go, I think I'm going to adjust my expectations. I think you're a crawler. Like, I really think the walking thing is not for you. You toddle over the sofa, you try and pull yourself up, and you fall again. Like, clearly, you're not meant to do this. Your dad and I are just going to adjust our expectations. You're going to crawl your way through life. Like, we'd never say that. You're laughing because it's, like, so unrealistic, right? But if we have one misstep, one failure, one fall, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, maybe I'm not meant to do this. Maybe it's not right. Maybe it's not me. Maybe the dream was too big. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe the call was confused. Instead of going, oh, it's normal. It's even predictable. It's even necessary for me to do what? Build muscle through resistance, to actually build the muscle I need to do what I need to do. It is the dance of life. And yeah, Laura, we'd never say that to our child, but we say horrible, horrible things to ourselves. If we're being really honest, we say terrible things to ourselves in the dark of the night and the moments where we're most in fear, when we're most in uncertainty, we say terrible things, and it will keep you stuck forever. And so this leads directly into shame and self-doubt. And I want you to know this, your past failure is not a predictor of your future success. Like if there's one thing you write down, I want you to get that, especially for those of you that were controlled by shame and self-doubt. Your past failure is not a predictor of your future success. You have to stretch beyond your comfort zone. And when you do, when we swing for the fences, we're going to have missteps. But we're swinging for the fences. Most people are just trying to get to first base, and you're trying to get to a home run. I'd rather be aiming for the home run and have a few failures than to still just be stuck on first base and to know I'm stuck on first base. What if you forgave yourself for not always getting it right? That's one of those what if questions. What's most holding you back? What are you most ashamed of? What if you forgave yourself for not getting it right? What if you didn't let somebody else's vision or lack thereof control yours? What if your vision was front and center? Because nobody has the same lens you do. You have your own prescription, your own vision. No one has the same one you do. Why are you letting their vision control yours? And if you think of like even a sports star as an example, if someone doesn't make a field goal or get the basket, do we think, what a loser? I can't even believe they made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, they missed that goal because we know it's not guaranteed. They're swinging for the fences. The home run isn't guaranteed. We don't penalize our idols for that, but we penalize ourselves for it. And it's really time to let that go and to know that that past failure is not a predictor of your future success. It's a badge of honor. It's the sum of all your parts that helped you realize how amazing you are and gave you the strength and the fortitude and the vision to help someone who's coming up behind you to do it. And if we reframe it that way, that sales as service approach is front and center for us. So I want you to ask yourself, now that you know all 5 objections, which one is most likely to keep you stuck, make you quit? Make you quit on you, make you quit on your dream, make you quit on your future, make you quit on your ideal client. Drop it in the chat if you're that bold. Which one, if you're being really honest, and it might be more than one, but what's the biggest one holding you back and controlling you? And Anita, it's your past failures, not a predictor of your future success. Yes. Well, here's the thing. This guy, when he first got started, did not know that he was going to turn out to be the guy that you're seeing today. But he just had to get started. He just had to say, yeah, I'm going to put my face on this, get paid to drive luxury cars. I'm going to put this out there, this VCR tape. I'm going to get it out there. And if he hadn't taken that first step, if he hadn't made his reason to stronger than his reason not to, if he hadn't done that, he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be helping you. He wouldn't have changed his life and his family's life and the scores of students that he's helped over the years. As coaches, yes, yeah. Stepping into the self-education industry and helping people, we have to make our reason not to our reason to. It's essential that we do that. It's critical that we do that. Otherwise, it's holding sway over us. We can't overcome it. And I want to quickly walk you through the hierarchy of enrollment. I want you to think of it this way. I mentioned at the beginning, you have to be enrolled in yourself before anybody else can be. You start with yourself, saying, I can do this. I must do this. I'm crazy not to do this. And then you go to your spouse or your partner and you say, I need to do this. I need your support. I can't ask for your permission. This is something I have to do. I need to do this. And then you go to your inner circle, the people that you spend the most time with, and you say, listen, I know we've been together forever. We've been college buddies. We've been neighbors. We've been in book club together. I know it seems a little crazy that I'm swinging for the fences and doing this thing. I know it doesn't look like I'm going to turn out to be anything when you look at this, but I really believe that I am called to do something bigger. I am doing this. I have to do this. And if you have a team, you have to enroll them too. You have to go back to your team and say, listen, we have to do this, whether it's a team of one or a volunteer or your spouse or your husband, we have to do this. And then to your tribe, the people you're meant to serve, you can say, I can do this for you. That's the next most logical thing. And Tony, I love that you're nodding and you get this because it matters a lot. We try and jump right ahead to enrolling our client, and then when they don't say yes, we beat ourselves up until we realize that we didn't take the time to enroll ourselves or our spouse or our partner or our inner circle or our team. And you have to do all those things to build that muscle through the resistance to be ready for it. And if you're uncertain, get into a group like this one where Tony's certainty, Dean's certainty, their coach's certainty can be more certain than you are. It's like Trent said, you have to stop letting the things you can't control you. Just because it's not easy doesn't mean you're not capable. You're just one choice away. You just have to make the choice. It's true for you, and it's true for your ideal client, because here's the thing. The decisions that you make today determine who you'll be 6 minutes from now, 6 months from now, and 6 years from now. And I know this to be true. I wouldn't be standing here today if during difficult choices in my life, I hadn't chosen me first. I hadn't enrolled myself in my big dream, whether it was going through a divorce, leaving my first marriage when my husband became an alcoholic and our life fell apart. And I had a decision to make. Am I going to stay here and go down with the ship, or am I going to strike out on my own? I decided to strike out on my own. And I go to my mom, and I'm like, I am moving to New York. And she's like, you can't move to New York. You don't know anyone. You're going through a divorce. You just started this business. People like us don't do that. You don't even know anyone. But I've been watching Sex and the City and Friends like it was my job, and I was like, oh, no, my people are in New York. My fear of regret was so huge. I would go to that basement and never come out, literally, figuratively die in that basement.